So I'm going to do a little housekeeping and welcoming, orienting, and then we'll dive right in. Okay. I'm really curious how many of you, this is your first time being at a PechaKucha? Nice. Excellent. Great, great, great. So for those of you that have never heard of PechaKucha or you don't know how to pronounce PechaKucha, we have a history with this particular format. It's 20 slides, 20 seconds. It started in Japan with a architectural firm, these two lovely humans. And what they found, and no offense to the architects in the room, but apparently architects tend to be a little long-winded about their particular designs. And so the format moved things right along. You had 20 seconds, 20 slides to show your stuff, and you could just move right along. So this particular format has become incredibly popular internationally. There is a PechaKucha International, which we are a part of, and it has morphed into lots of different topics besides just architecture, as you will see tonight. Just to give you a little bit more information about, I want to give you some statistics because that's what I do, right? There's 1,318 communities around the world that use PechaKucha. And we've been hosting ours since 2010. So this is volume 39. And the crew has sort of changed over time. We're always looking for volunteers in addition to looking for presenters. So you can talk to one of us that have these shirts on, 640. Our former MC used to joke, these are not Bible verses. It is 6 minutes and 40 seconds, right? So if you see somebody that has one of these shirts on, you can ask them some information. We also have information out on the table in the lobby, and there's also some QR codes that we will continually post. Let me tell you a little bit more about some of the, so these are odd times, right? And so that's exceptionally important for us to be here together. And one of the things that I love so much about PechaKucha is we get such a wide range and diverse voices coming up and telling their stories, telling us their passions. And as a crew, we are totally committed to this idea of diversity, inclusion, and equity. And it is not a bad word. You know, this idea that every voice does matter, right? And every perspective enriches us, and every individual deserves a space where they can be seen, heard, and valued. And so no booing, there's no voting. We're here to witness people's stories, okay? So be kind to each other, right? All right. The other thing, I'm just going to give you a little bit more context, and then we'll thank our sponsors, and then we'll get going. Did people know that this week was Vermont's birthday? Yeah? We turned 234 on Tuesday. Yeah. The Vermont's birthday, it fell on town meeting day this year. In 1777, Vermont Constitution was signed in Windsor. And then 10 years later, on March 4th, 1791, the first Congress admitted Vermont. We were the 14th state in the U.S. I did not know that, right? And before it was officially brought into the Union, Vermont was an independent republic for 14 years, the only state, right? The only state aside from Texas to go on its own. So that sort of explains a lot to me, right? I do want to, without getting waxing too poetic, I do want to talk a little bit about our brave little green state here. As Ben and Jerry's post this week on Instagram, they said, we celebrate our home state and the Vermonters who, since its founding, have never hesitated to stand up for democracy, fairness, and justice. Whether in town halls or out in the streets, civic engagement is alive and well. I don't know if you heard what's been going on in the world, right? But here in Vermont, part of what, again, what I love about our little green state, we have a Republican race car driver governor. We have a libertarian pot farmer as a lieutenant governor, right? 3 of our congressional folks, Becca Ballant, Peter Walsh, and Bernie Sanders, have taken the national stage in really important ways. I don't know, there was a big virtual town hall. Over 34,000 people showed up for that with our congressional representatives in DC. Here in Burlington, the city council's first ever Sikh identified member of the council, Buddy Singh, was elected on Tuesday, right? We also have the second highest rate of homelessness per capita in the country, so we can't get too proud, right? And we're also one of the least racially and ethnically diverse states in the country. We are the leading producer of maple syrup in the US, right? And I was doing all kinds of homework for you all here. We lead the nation in breweries per capita. Did you know that? So there you go. Right. One of whom is in the lobby is Foam Brewery, which is right down the street. They will be here during intermission. Please support them, and we're glad that they were able to join us. Last weekend, there was a little brouhaha here in Vermont, where we made national news for Vermonters exercising their First Amendment right to peacefully assemble, express differing views, and gathering with others for political, social, and religious purposes, right? The democratic process involves all of us actively participating. So I perceive this venue as part of that process, and thank you, regardless of politics. I thank you for showing up for those of you that were in Waitsfield on last weekend. Yeah. So before we begin, I do want to acknowledge some of our wonderful sponsors that have made PechaKucha Night possible. Our lead sponsor is Mascoma Bank, and they've been partnering with us since we reimagined what this PechaKucha could be like in 2018. So thank you. As they celebrate their 125th anniversary in 2024, Mascoma is a certified B corporation, and they've been donating over $1 million to more than 150 nonprofits here in Chittenden County. So thank you very much. It means a whole lot that they have sponsored us. I also want to acknowledge Solidarity of Unbridled Labor, which supports PechaKucha in lots of ways, including the branding and their legendary design and transforming our brand. And 7 Days, where you all got your tickets this time around, which was great. And they've been supporting us since volume number 1 in 2010. Yeah. I also want to shout out to our long-term supporters, Media Factory. They're the ones that are recording this. They film all of the events. They put it up on YouTube. They also put it up on our webpage. And you can watch all of the videos of our volumes on our YouTube channel. So please do that. I do want to acknowledge, you didn't know I was going to do this, but I do want to acknowledge Drew Frazier, who was working at Media Factory. He has now moved on. He helped us relaunch our website. He's stepping away from our PechaKucha committee, which is why we need more volunteers, because he was one of these quiet workhorses in the background and just did so much for us. So Drew, thank you. He is the managing director of Sundog Poetry and working at the Vermont Captive Insurance Association. So thanks so much. I'm going to miss you. Okay, so I have been reading a collection of short essays from a Canadian author. You may have heard of her, Margaret Atwood. Last week I read a 2018 essay where she was imagining herself writing as a creature from a planet in a galaxy far, far away. And here's how the essay ends. Earthlings, behave yourselves. Have fun when possible. Avoid totalitarianism. Enjoy the cat videos. Read up on human rights. Eat lots of kale. Get rid of single-use plastics. And that, to me, sort of captures what PechaKucha is all about, right? We got a little bit of everything. I don't think any cat videos tonight, but and I don't even think about kale. But we do have an awesome lineup. I'm going to ask if folks can check their cell phones, make sure those are turned off. We're going to have 5 presenters, then we'll do a 15-minute intermission. Again, help yourself to treats, and then we'll come back and we'll finish up. It would be great if people could stay for the whole night. We will probably be out of here before 9 o'clock. So with that being said, I would like to start. I'd like to introduce my colleague and compatriot over at SUNY Plattsburgh, John Little, the pale brown dot, climate changed.
The older I get, the worse my short-term memory gets. But I'm going to try not to read, but just to remind myself. And I'm ready to go. Get closer to the mic. How's this? Good. All right. Great. Good. So imagine a miracle, a planet teeming with life. That's ours. Other planets with life, we don't really know. That makes Earth a singular miracle. I've spent my life documenting this truly amazing planet. Welcome to Earth. I'm a traveler, curious. These stars remind me of my place in the universe. Tonight, I'll connect the dots, the universe, planets, us, and our future. The universe is ancient. What amazing journey did life take to become these kudus? All that there is occupies scales in time and space that we can't even begin to imagine. They're beyond our comprehension. Nature's vistas fill me with wonder. Rock of Ages. Beauty is fleeting, evanescent. I keep my cameras ready, just in case. I think I'll speak slower. Life started here 3.5 billion years ago. The Tasmanian moment hints at timelessness. You can see the Southern Cross in the upper right or upper left. From simple life, we evolved. Life is rare. We're the only known planet with life. How life arrived isn't so important, though. How it might end is very important. Even small temperature changes matter. Life is never invincible. This bird's flight reminds us its ancestors were dinosaurs, by the way. A lot of people don't probably know that. 5 extinctions on this planet happened. Species are connected, like dominoes. Some species survived, like this guy. This ancient crocodile is part of life's tapestry. Most species didn't make it, though. 99% of the species on this planet have failed. Our planet is warming. These elephants, as strong as they are, as big as they are, as immovable as they might seem to be, they're no match for climate change. Greenhouse gases are accelerating, and we're losing time. Greenhouse gases trap heat. Whoops. Sorry. Hundreds of species are gone. These Grand Canyon layers, a timeline of life, are extinctions witnessed. Human actions are driving extinction faster. Greenhouse gases trap heat. This sentinel flamingo watches and waits. He has no idea what's coming. Urgency is lacking for some. Iceland's magnificent desolation. It's a beautiful warning. We choose profit over preservation. Some know, but don't act. This lonesome pine serves a cautionary tale. We are alone too. We must depend on ourselves. There is no help beyond this world. This could be the future for our rainforests. This is the sunrise at Uluru in my other home, Australia. Uluru is vast, arid, and lifeless, and that's a world that we are likely to inherit unless we don't make changes. What will we sacrifice? These ducks eat plants. Predators eat ducks. No plants, no ducks, no life. It's a house of cards. Will we cause the 6th great extinction? New Zealand's fjords are beautiful. A dolphin leaps from her shallows. Such wonder. How long will it last? These animals are so fragilely connected to each other that if you start to remove any of these animals from the landscape, others perish. You don't need convincing. This group, you, none of you. I feel like the mothership called me home. I see wonder. I see helplessness. How to convince the deniers? It won't be easy, but I have a plan. Kill a species, kill other species. These macaques are us, but not. They can't stop the world from dying. They cannot change the world, but we can. Nature reminds us what we must fight for. Nature's plea. We have to listen. I hear it. Do they? I hope they do. We destroy our environment. We will feel hunger. Some will make war to feed their own. Extinction? Nuclear holocaust? I choose action. I choose hope. I choose life. Thank you.
All right, so for the rest of the speakers, you got to speak into the microphone, right? So, all right, our next speaker is going to talk about inside bad, outside good. Erik, come on up.
Okay, going Bon Jovi style, so we're just gonna do it. Here we go, whenever you're ready. I have been an outdoor educator, a wilderness educator, if you will, for 30 years. And I've done trips with kids in Joshua Tree, Death Valley, Mojave, the High Sierra, the swamps of Florida, the orca-infested waters of Puget Sound. That has been my life, for better or for worse, for the past 30 years. A fair question to ask would be why? The working conditions are terrible, the pay is awful, so what am I doing out there? And more importantly, what's happening to kids when we take kids outdoors on these adventures? What sort of transformations take place when we get kids out of the classroom, out in front of their screens, and get them out into the wilderness? One of the things that happens is that they have fun. And I think we have this kind of 19th century Dickensian hangover about how learning has to be this kind of grim, gritty experience. But when kids are having fun, they oftentimes open themselves up cognitively, emotionally, to all kinds of new experiences. So fun actually brings with it quite a bit of development. And in addition to which, they become their authentic selves, right? They become who they are. All the layers of the way that we define them socially and sort of artificially, they start to bleed away and they become who they were meant to be in so many ways. That's my son. And when they're out there, they have a tendency to sort of start thinking about themselves a little bit differently. There's something called narrative identity theory. And what that means is that we tell ourselves stories about our lives to make meaning. Otherwise, we're just wandering around in existential crisis and none of us know what's going on. But narrative identity theory works best when we have experiences that are vibrant and exciting. And here's the thing about experiences in the outdoors. They create actual moments where you can actually sort of think about how you are progressing through life. It's not abstract. It's not cerebral. It's real. You've accomplished goals. You've had adventures. You've had failures. And that transforms the kids that are on these sorts of adventures because they have this kind of tactile knowledge of how they've overcome their challenges. But it's not just about them. It's about their friends too. Nowhere do we get a chance to kind of connect with other human beings better than when you're suffering together in the outdoors. Mosquitoes, cold, you're Vermonters, many of you, you know the deal. It's what brings us together. I love talking about the weather because it's one of my favorite topics in the world because we all experience it. And here's the other thing that kids get in the outdoors. They get to be impulsive. You know, we think about impulsive in sort of as a pathology, but in fact, you can have impulses towards empathy. You can have impulses towards courage. You can have impulses towards all sorts of great things. So impulsivity may not be the bad thing that we think it is. And in addition to which, curiosity takes flight when we take kids outdoors. The natural world requires them to explore, and exploration, just as a human drive, and curiosity go hand in hand. By taking them outdoors, they begin to explore not just that place, but themselves, each other, and how they sort of fit into the whole picture. But with curiosity and exploration comes ambiguity, which is not knowing, not being sure, being a little bit frightened of the outcome. And if we can offer kids that experience, when they get into sort of larger scale, bigger stakes experiences later in life, they'll have that kind of real understanding of what ambiguity feels like. And they do it together, right? One of the most important things about sort of taking kids on these wilderness adventures is that they have to travel together. They have to explore together. They have to get lost together. I was just getting college students lost this morning. So it's what they need to do to find themselves, right? And so it becomes this really important part of their story, their narrative identity. And the best parts of the outdoors are when it gets really boring and there's absolutely nothing to do and you have to make your own fun. Because everything is interesting if we just look at it long enough. And so that boredom, as Walter Benjamin says, gives birth to the dream bird of experience. And so boredom becomes this incredible ignition. We live in a world of bullies right now. We live in a world where there's a lot of people telling us who we can be or not be, what we can say and not say. And there is nothing that scares a bully worse than someone who knows their value and is strong and capable. So if we can get young people to know who they are and how strong they are, we can beat back the bullies. The great thing about the outdoors is that it kind of gets rid of this whole accomplishment scenario that we all hang on to. I have goals, I'm gonna climb to the top, I'm gonna see this, I'm gonna get these things. It becomes much more about the path. Path is goal, goal is path, as we like to say. And so it becomes not about accomplishment, it becomes not about achievement, but it becomes about the journey. And when you're on that journey, you actually get to experience something that we don't talk about a lot, which is reverie. We all talk about being critical thinkers or analytic people, but whatever happened to daydreaming? The outdoors lends itself to kids having the opportunity to do exactly that, to daydream, to sort of fall into a state of reverie. One of the things I noticed with my college students at Champlain is that the difference between need and want needs to be defined for them. They want so many things. They want to be successful. They want to do this. They want to get a degree. They want an extension on their homework, whatever it is. But they need very little. They need each other. And they need to be outside, maybe a tarp to keep the rain off, and that's it. That's me when I was 19 years old working for Outward Bound. That's where it all started for me. And in that moment, I decided, for better or for worse, that that was the life I wanted. I wanted to be in the swamps of Florida taking incarcerated youth on 30-day canoe trips because it meant something to me. And in those moments, I felt like I really understood the things that I could do, the things that I could sort of enact in the world in a way that made sense. And so I've spent 30 years taking all kinds of kids on all kinds of adventures all over the place. But it's become more than just a profession for me. It's become more than sort of my work. It's become the sort of backdrop for the things that are so important and valuable to me. One of them is sitting here in the front row, and it's my wife. The outdoors has become this place, this backdrop, where the most important moments of my life happen. Not a lot happens indoors for me. It's not a very interesting place. I mean, you guys are interesting. It's not you. This is great. But generally speaking, I'd rather just be outdoors because that's where the adventure happens, right? That's where the fun happens. And of all the things in my life that the outdoors has taught me, the one most important is that as a parent, I make a lot of mistakes and rarely know what I'm doing, I feel like. But if I can get my kids outside, I know that at least on that day, I have done one good, true thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Erik. Weiling, do you want to do Oprah Winfrey sort of style too? Oh, okay. All right. Very good. So our next presentation is Creating Immersive Classroom with Panoramic Vision by Weiling Deng.
Thank you. Yeah, it's kind of interesting to speak after Erik. I have to bring everybody, all the students. But okay, is it close enough? Good. Yeah, it's interesting to speak after my colleague Erik because I'm bringing everybody back indoors, but to a different dimension of panorama vision. So on a bright January afternoon, 20 Champlain students transformed the entire classroom into a giant camera obscura. It's a dark room. It's a very transformative experience to sit inside a camera. And you see the upside down image coming from the outside. Through the pinhole, they crawl onto the walls and ceiling. So Champlain values experiential learning, and we spend roughly an hour sealing the entire classroom, covering every gap of light, and then students took off their jacket and covered all the digital and artificial lighting in order to experience immersive media before the digital time. So as you can see on the screen, it's really challenging for 20-year-olds to not look at their phone because once their phone screen turns on, it spoils the entire dark room. So that was the attempt to decouple the idea of immersion from the 21st century VR technology. So in 19th century European audience enjoy themselves in the dark theaters of dioramas. So those are backlit images that turn from daylight to nighttime to daylight. Then it's a 19th century version of Disneyland. Or in the parallel universe of Champlain, you can ascend to the top of the campus to the Vista Room. It's a 360-degree room in the library where you can sit there, look outside of the window, look at the sunset in the west, or you can also turn around to look at the east window where you see the reflection of the sunset. And so the 360-degree painting is called Panorama. It was patented in the late 18th century by Ireland-born artist named Robert Barker. So the goal is to provide the audience the visual tour somewhere else. So my creative immersive classroom came from my partnership with this Los Angeles-based panorama called Valles Vese. It started in the year 2000 in a former Chinese takeout restaurant on the left, and where you can see a LA basin from 200 years ago, like the panorama in my hand. So the original size is 5 feet by 60 feet. It's LA basin painted in a muted yellow tone. Just let the image sink. So the current panorama is in a purpose-built Union Theater in LA. You leave the sunlit, warm LA street behind, walk through this cool, dark hallway to let your body cool down. And then the current panoramic view is a northeastern Chinese city from 100 years ago. And you take a left turn. Here, as you approach the platform, you can start to hear the train sound, train horns. And here you can see the 2 train stations facing each other. As you ascend the spiral staircase to the platform, you can see the entire Chinese city in front of you, painted on a 2D canvas, but with a 3-dimensional false landscape between the platform and the painting. So the city was colonized by the Russians and the Japanese. You're able to see both the royal palace from the Manchu Empire, but also Russian-style mansions and churches and Japanese railroads as they try to grab more land to expand their empires. And then the longer you stay on the platform, the more immersed you are. So where you stand on the platform is actually a hypothetical viewpoint. It doesn't exist, but this is the map that the artists and scholars used to make sure that all the main landmarks, including the canals and the train stations, railways, are included in this painting. But where would be the ideal panoramic standpoint, viewpoint on Champlain College that you probably want to see the charms of the older and the newer buildings, but you also probably want to see the Lake Champlain and also the Adirondacks behind. So that's the Vista Room on top of the library. So in the Vista Room, I had my class have a conversation with Sarah Vallis, who's the founder of Vallis Vese Panorama. And here you see 2 panoramas speaking to each other. One on the west coast of New England and one on the west coast of America. So my friend, New Hampshire-based cartoonist Merrick Bennett, sat in the Vista Room and painted this beautiful black and white panoramic comic art. Right, so 2 different kinds of art coming together. As he painted it, we saw the black clouds coming over. And just an hour ago before the painting, he did a wonderful workshop with all my students and some other students. So if you look at this room, it's kind of curvy, linear perspective. And that's a special skill that he was teaching us. When you draw a room, you can choose a single vanishing point to provide this seemingly straightforward vision of a 3-dimensional space. But you can also choose to try a curvy linear one, which is broader, which is meant to more immerse you inside the picture, the painting. So here you have more than 1 vanishing point. So you have actually 3 vanishing points, and each of them is gravitating the light and your vision towards them. So you have both ends of the whole room inside one painting. So this is a student work. It's interesting to look at to watch them finish their work, the drawing here. It's interesting to also think that as students immerse themselves into college in the city of Burlington, how many different perspectives can you draw into one picture? The more, the better. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So fascinating. All right. Our next speaker is going to talk about the adventures of Trey, a 1:6 scale doll in Vermont. Ishana Ingerman. Yeah. Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah. Welcome to my story within a story within a story.
Let me introduce you to Trey. I got this 12-inch doll as a sweater model. I wanted to borrow my daughter's doll to measure him for a knit sweater, and she said, "No, Mom, get your own doll." So I got this doll. I decided to repaint his face, so he is now one of a kind. I quickly learned how to make doll sweaters from socks and to paint monotone plastic doll shoes to make them look more like the real thing. My nature photography took a whole new angle. My daughter made Trey a backpack, and I got him a dog. I created an Instagram account to document the unfolding story. I took Trey to some local shops and started building his character. I gave him a family, a job, and a few hobbies. I started making food out of polymer clay and acrylic paint and discovered that one can purchase 1/6 scale phones and laptops. In Trey's story, he moves into the family cabin and gets Grandma's permission to remodel it. As he becomes a DIYer, I turn into a creator of cardboard cabinets, miniature books, clay tools, and doll fashion. The crock on the left was an ibuprofen bottle, and the triple baguette pan was originally homeopathic vials. More recycled cardboard, paint, and glue. I love masonry heaters, so Trey gets permission to build one. I called up the North American expert on cockleophants and asked for some support and advice to create this miniature. Trey's character starts to share his life on Instagram. In his story, Trey meets Ashley at his Uncle Rory's alpaca farm. He explores spinning and dyeing yarn. He makes sauerkraut. He eats local tortillas and shows some stress management skills. In the last picture, you can see the beginnings of my armchair construction. I gave each doll a personality and a backstory. Oops. Help. Where are we? Oh, Trey makes some friends. Okay. Trey makes friends. I decided to make them all musicians. And Trey's invited to join a band. I gave a pink plastic Barbie fiddle a few coats of paint and challenged myself to learn how accordions were made. On the bottom left, you can see my first instruments, the flat washboards. Then I tried to my hand at a couple of drums. I used vellum for the hide. I created the movable accordion from paper, wire, and paint. As Trey begins rehearsing, I learn about hosting events on Instagram for the international doll community. Trey invites the Instagram dolls to an annual harvest barn dance. I hosted this event 2 years in a row and hope to do it again. Many doll collectors and storytellers participated in the dances, and it was a lot of work and a lot of fun. Winter in Vermont. I made the dolls some warm clothes and focused on cozy activities, more storytelling, and polymer gingerbread cookies. I gave each doll a personality and a backstory. Trey and his friends are a wholesome bunch. And all my little stories revolve around creating solid friendships, work, family, food, the seasons, and helping those in need. Let me tell you one of these stories. Trey discovers an old trunk out in the shed. Ashley shows up. It has Grandma's maiden name on it. Ashley shows up as he calls to ask about it, and Grandma says she thinks it was her own grandfather's trunk, that he was a sea captain, and she thought the trunk was full of scraps of paper that he had written things on. Inside the trunk, Trey and Ashley find a wooden carving of a ship's captain and a book called The Mariner's Rose, A Star to Live By. Trey delves into his great-great-grandfather's stories after promising to share them with Ashley. I made the carving from polymer clay and acrylic paint. The 8 points of the Mariner's Rose inspired Trey to make a personal mandala. The colored pencils are toothpicks. The tea kettle is made with a bottle cap and a pull tab. The red bowl in the back is half a ping pong ball. Ashley wanted to participate, but she isn't an artist. I created a journal for her. and then spent hours finding and cutting out the perfect words and images for her from papers and magazines. And there you can see the polymer clay sculpting process. Each of the 8 points of the star represents different aspects of life. I spent a whole year slowly developing Trey and Ashley's characters by juxtaposing their different takes on Trey's great-great-grandfather's work. Trey's buddies, Brian and Chet, started feeling a little left out. And Brian had a great idea. Brian shows Trey some self-publishing options and offers to type up the little book. Trey and Grandma agree to that, and Trey starts to work on the cover. Meanwhile, in real life, I start to do the same. I wrote down the words of the old sea captain, creating a collection of short stories and some philosophy, as well as practical suggestions for balancing life. A shout out here to the folks who read through it several times and gave me feedback. Both the dolls and the humans involved are excited about publishing. There are many crafters who enjoy making things for their dolls. Some folks were interested in my work, so I made a PDF for a 1:6 scale mandala and a miniature book. For the covers of the human-size version, I printed out a stock photo of leather on some cardstock and added several coats of acrylic paint. If you enjoy my photography, my miniatures, or my storytelling, I invite you to follow Trey on Instagram at A Green Mountain Ken. Thank you.
That's not really a pitch. You all got that, right? Thank you so much. Fantastic. All right, our last one before intermission is Bill Harvey, Brand Revolutions. Welcome, Bill.
Can you hear me? Bring it up. It's okay. Try that. Can you hear me now? Okay, great. Go. Dad, he was born in the Bronx in 1922. He fought the Nazis in Sicily in 1942. In the 50s, he got a gig as a designer in a startup record company at Bleecker Street in Greenwich Village. Then through the 60s, the bottom right, Rolling Stone magazine cover that was really a gag gift. Here's 3 early covers he designed and illustrated. They are 10-inch extended play vinyl records and the beginning of the golden age of the record business. Two more 10-inch EPs, really early 50s. And the next 17 slides will breeze through his work as the designer, photographer, illustrator, art director, vice president, general manager of creative services for Elektra Records from 55 to 72. These are the earliest 12-inch vinyl long-playing records he designed and illustrated. It turned out they were all for the same record. This is the wrong one, I'm sorry. So I've mixed my pages up here. This one is the earliest long-playing vinyl records, all for the same record. It's very funny, I think, all out of the same year, too. These are 2 examples showing, the first use of high-end photography. I guess the budgets were growing finally. On the left, Limelighters, the logo, what some say was the first logo for a group. The Beatles came about 5 years later. Top right was Panoramic stereo. Now stereo is the new recording standard. At this point, I was about 5 years old and really started to pay more attention to the covers and the music. Again, high-end, really high-end photography, which was new for him anyway. Judy Collins was the biggest recording artist on Elektra. She was a good friend of my father's, and he made covers for her for over 12 years. The cover on the right might give you an idea of why Stephen Stills wrote a song about her called Sweet Judy Blue Eyes. Uh, 1964, a cover for a world-renowned flamenco guitarist, Juan Serrano. It was a radical idea to have a cover without a title or the artist's name. On the right, the Beatles, a nod to Beatlemania at the time, which seems to have devoured everything in its path. Spider John Kerner, he was Dylan's college roommate in Dinkytown at the University of Minneapolis. Oh no, we have the wrong one. We're at string band. On the right, Fred Neil, considered the pioneer of what became known as folk rock. Here's Spider John. He was Dylan's college roommate in Dinkytown, Minneapolis, Minnesota. He turned Zimmerman onto what was a ton of traditional American music. Phil Oakes, a protest activist, singer, songwriter, and a yippie. My dad did the photo for that one. 67, Love, a group Jack, my dad's boss, was smitten with from Los Angeles. The leader of the group convinced Jack to record The Doors. And this is the cover of their third album, and the logo by my father has become an iconic symbol of the 60s. Butterfield Blues Band out of Chicago. My father did the logo, the cover, and the photographs on this one. Tim Buckley. This one is a psychedelic folk rock, essentially, and the title was Goodbye and Hello. It was released at the same time as the Beatles did Hello, Goodbye, which kind of confused a lot of people. The Doors, cover design, 1967, essentially acid rock. It was far and away the biggest success Elektra ever had. On the strange days, some of the stories that have been told about it are true and some aren't. For what it's worth, the back cover reads, concept and design, William S. Harvey. Zodiac, cosmic sounds, producers were heavily into Moog synthesizer electronic music. And on the right, the Holy Moly Rounders. If You Want to Be a Bird, it was on the Easy Rider soundtrack in 1969. Psychedelia ruled the day. Earth Opera, founded by Peter Rohn and David Grisman, was psychedelic rock, basically. And I always loved knowing that the sculpture was made with a giant mayonnaise jar. And on the right, Roxy was pop rock, not to be confused with Roxy Music. Rhinoceros, more psychedelic rock. Even the blues had been infiltrated by psychedelia. The illustrator who did the rhinoceros work on the left was a large print of an Albrecht Dürer rhinoceros. You might have seen an etching on its base before the color and decorations were added. 1969, the MC5 and the Stooges cover weren't only my dad's, but that of also my new brother-in-law, Bob Heimel. He worked under my father and then became art director himself. And you can see my dad in the upper right of the MC5 with the tie and the blue shirt. This is the signing at Elektra Records of the MC5 and the Stooges in 1968, considered the first proto-punk bands. My dad's on the right-hand side there. MC5 were White Panthers, a counterculture, anti-racist, anti-capitalist political collective in solidarity with the Black Panthers, revolutionary for sure. In 64, they launched the None Such Budget classical label, to include world music later. 1950 to 73, Elektra released 500 LPs and None Such 250. Just a few more things for me to listen to. That's it.
That was fantastic. Beautiful indeed. All right, so we're at intermission time. If you can get up, stretch buy a beer from Foam Brewery, one of the breweries in Vermont. And when we come back, we will start with Sarah Dyer. Thank you. So with Drew's help, we've got a phenomenal webpage. You'll know these little cards out there. We've got 2 presentations coming up. I already said that, but I'll say it again. One in June and one in October. So grab one of these. We're always looking for volunteers. We're always looking for presenters, or if you know someone that would tell a really great story. So please pick one of those up. So our next presenter, she's very tall and I'm not, so that's why I'm reaching here. Sarah Dyer, same but different. So welcome, Sarah.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay, good. Hello, America. Same but different. This is not a koala bear. It is a koala. It is a marsupial that kicks its young out early and stuffs it in a pouch. This is a beautiful bear. It lives in America. It can kill you. Same but different. I based this presentation on the words of socialist and political activist George Bernard Shaw, who talked about 2 people separated by a common language. But today I'm going to talk about Australia and America. Aussies have an annoying rising pitch in our speech pattern. It happens at the ends of all our sentences. My American husband often asks, "Is that a question?" And I say, "No, I'm talking. I'm making a statement. Same but different." If my husband asks me if I want to go out, I say, "Yeah, nah, yeah," and he just stares at me. And I say, yes means I heard you, no means I don't want to go out, and yes means I heard you again. Calls from my Australian friends, always the same questions. Can you buy a gun in America? Do you think there will be a civil war in America? And I say, yeah, politics. I start to reveal the subtle, really amazing things that are different here compared to Australia. I say things like this. Do you know what they call a no-through road here? A dead end. They flick the lights up and they can go through red lights if they're turning right. Everyone says, no way, America's wild. Post, oh my God, they don't have motorbikes here. They walk and they come to your house and they take your mail for you and they post it for you. It's amazing. I went downtown to get a driver's license in New York. He says to me, "Oh, so you know you have to do a driver's license. You're an international. Do you speak English?" I said, "Yeah." He just stared at me blankly and then we both laughed. I went to a party and the girl says to me, "Oh, you're Australian. I love that accent. So you were born in Australia?" I said, "Yes." She said, "So did you sound like that when you were born?" We both stared at each other and we laughed because we thought that was stupid. At the checkout, "Let me guess," he says, "you're from the United Kingdom?" I said, "No, actually Australia." He said, "Oh, same. I said, "Oh, really?" He said, "Yeah, you've got that ruler. You're under that just one king." And I said, "Oh, yeah, same. You've got a king now." Yeah. At the shops, "Where can I find?" And they always say, "It's going to be down there on aisle 4, bottom shelf." I said, "What do you mean it's going to be? Is it there right now? Is it on the shelf right now? It's going to be on the bottom shelf when I get there?" This is magic. Real estate shopping in New York. We don't have basements in Australia. I said to my American husband, they are growing drugs in the basements. In New York, it's wild. The real estate agent said, they're tomato seedlings, darling. I said, okay, wow. I started going to a storytelling group in New York. Someone told a story about walking along with their fanny pack. You can't say that in Australia. It's a very different body part. Google it. I went back to the wild storytelling group. Someone told a story about selling his parents. Why would you sell your mother and father? I listened to the whole story. I got so lost. And then right at the end, he started making parrot sounds. Parrots. Yeah. People meet, but they need a spare chair. The American. We don't have a chair. They have a chair. We should get that chair. Ask them for that chair. Could we have your chair, please? You may have the chair. Thank you. You're welcome. Formal, clear, direct, polite. In Australia, there are no words. We just grab a chair. We don't even say anything. Same but different. Passing in front of someone. The American. Excuse me, could I please just pass in front of you? Of course, thank you, you're welcome. Formal, clear, direct. The Australian, there's no language. We just pass. And there's sort of like a mumbling, deferential nod and soft sorry. The left image is universal as peace. But if you reverse the image, this is not good in Australia. The other day someone said, do you want 2 cookies? I was like, I couldn't even look at her. Google said there were 8,000 black bears living in the Adirondack Mountains. The first thing I did when I got here, I asked for bear spray. He said, it's going to be on the shelf at the back. It was bear attractant, to lure a bear to shoot it. I said, I want bear spray so the bear will run away. Here are both herbivores. Both are agile mammals. They hop or leap to travel. American deer can run gracefully. Australian kangaroos will punch you in the face. Same but different. I've studied humans my whole life, lived all over the world. They confuse, irritate, surprise, and sometimes shock me. But the one thing I've learned is that I agree with Dr. Angelo. If we're gentle with each other, we stand together. In diversity, there is beauty and there is strength. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. So the next one is failure without the F. Brian Schaffran.
Tired of not hearing people. All right, go ahead. So my dad was a pretty handy dude, but I was not allowed to take shop class in high school because my parents believed that college and shop class were mutually exclusive. I wasn't allowed to be surrounded by stoners and flunkies. So I went to college and I flunked out. I bought an old Volkswagen bus and I moved to Los Angeles because I thought I was going to be an actor. And both that Volkswagen and I were always broke. So eventually I had to learn to fix it myself. And for the first time in my life, I learned by doing. I didn't learn by memorizing. I now had the confidence to fail and learn from my mistakes. This woke up an insatiable desire in me to learn everything I possibly could. So I went back to school because I had to be a teacher. I had to get in front of students and I had to wake up their love of learning. It didn't even matter what subject I was going to be teaching. I just needed to get in front of them and wake that up. About 15 years ago, I was teaching high school in Cleveland when we did a thing called Wonder Week. Every adult in the building got to teach their passion for 1 week instead of the subject that we were hired to teach. So for 1 week, I had 12 kids and I I exposed them to the wonders of turning wrenches on old motorcycles. I was going to let them see how engines worked. We were going to tear down and rebuild 3 old Hondas. And after about 15 minutes, I found out that none of them had ever held a screwdriver. So eventually, after this week, all the screws had been ruined, all the bolts had been rounded. These bikes had been taken apart in a million pieces, but they did not go back together. I totally failed. But over the next few months, I realized that these kids learned, and they learned a lot, and they loved it because they learned by failing. Up until then, learning meant sitting in a classroom, learning and memorizing abstract theories and facts. These 12 students became better students in their regular classes. Their attendance rates became higher, their feeling of agency over their school, careers grew, they signed up for after-school activities, their grades and attitudes improved, they were totally changed. And I know it sounds crazy, but for me, that love of learning is linked to that old Volkswagen. And for these 12 students, that love of learning is linked to these 3 old Hondas. It's that ancient cool machine that was the missing key for me and for those 12 students. Imagine this country being stocked with kids, high school kids and college kids that possess the confidence to fix the world around them because they got to learn with their hands. That problem-solving mentality is the holy grail in education. And I could no longer stomach teaching students sitting in desks. So my wife and I, a fellow educator, invented MotoGo Cleveland. It's a nonprofit. We put tools in the kids' hands, and we encourage them to make mistakes through building vintage motorcycles. In MotoGo, kids learn by failing, and they solve the problems. Not problems on paper, not the cerebral problems that Erik was talking about. These are problems like stripping screws and rounding bolts. The problems that are right there in front of them that they can touch. During a recent MotoGo class, I had a sophomore that could not read. I quietly read him the next step in the manual so that he could continue. The next day, he sought out the reading specialist. And when she asked why now, he said, "Miss, I have to learn to read the manual because I have to build a motorcycle." Now that is not the shop class that my father wouldn't let me join. And another student, Lillian, perfect grades in high school, but didn't know she wanted to go to college yet until she took the MotoGo class. Then she became a mechanical engineer. Now she's getting her doctorate in quantum energy exchange at Ohio State University. Crazy. Turns out my dad was wrong all along about shop class. It is actually for everyone. It is not for stoners and flunkies. Once kids realize that the mistakes they make, the failures and the victories all lead to that ultimate success, they're totally changed. They become students of life, students of the world. They get to experience failure without a failing grade. And you know who needs this most? Students that identify as female. Because only a fool believes that getting your hands dirty is man's work. Women are better at almost everything. And when they're finally invited into the spaces that they've historically been told are off limits, they shine. They listen better, they try harder, they take direction easier, they learn from their mistakes faster, they care more, they have more to prove. It's absurd that 51% of our population is never given the opportunity to learn with their hands. Imagine this country's workforce if the pool wasn't limited to just males. The country needs this. Cleveland needs it, and I'm guessing Burlington needs it too. If the next 100,000 high school graduates in Burlington all knew how to fail and problem solve and succeed, the city would become a beacon of ingenuity and work ethic for generations. Shop class can save a city. And on the surface, shop class is still just school. So we must lure the kids in with something cool and sexy and old like a motorcycle. And we can't hold the class in traditional classrooms. We have to let them experience this in a dirty, greasy garage, in a place that doesn't feel like school. We must attract them into the garage with the one object no mother wants their kid to get involved with, the motorcycle. Shop class is not a new concept, but it seems to have disappeared over the last couple decades. We need to rebrand and revamp it because it is so important that kids learn to continue failing. And by protecting me from failure, my dad kept me from the most important learning of my life. Failure is the linchpin to problem solving, and problem solving is the root of every skill known to humans. Shop class is the place where problem solving and failure are best learned.
Thank you. I forgot to tell you that the second half was our international half. We got Cleveland, Australia, and I'm a Buckeye by birth. We discovered that, right? There's a number of you in here. I know that. Yeah, but we're in here. We're in Vermont, not in Ohio. Okay. Our next speaker, Jess, are you tall? Should I? Okay. All right. So I'm not gonna adjust this. Okay. Consciously Unbecoming, Cultivate the Garden of Your Mind with Jess Kiely-Vogelpohl.
This feels cool. Hi. Before I get started, I just wanted to stop and say, like, these presenters are amazing. Like, what if all of these presenters didn't follow their passions? Look at the impact that would have. So, man, it's cool to be here. All right, you ready? Let's do this. Hi, I'm Jess, and if I had a Disney villain origin story, it would make a lot of sense. A lot of pain, a lot of trauma, a lot of grief, but instead of turning evil, I turned my pain into purpose. Through my background and experience in neuroscience, psychology, and quantum physics, I got obsessed with this one truth. We attract our reality and we create it. So think of your mind as a garden. Your reticular activating system is the gatekeeper that's keeping out anything that is not in alignment with your beliefs. So if your beliefs are negative, guess what? You're gonna have all of these negative things swirling around, but with intention, you can actually change your beliefs. So if you think about it, your beliefs are these like seeds that are planted deep in your subconscious mind, right? Now the observer effect says that just by noticing these beliefs, we can actually change them. So you're saying that if we change our thoughts, we can shift our energy? Hell yeah, that's what I'm saying. Let's talk about it. Anyone in here ever been a child? Yeah, cool. Talking to the right group of people. When you were a child, your brain was a sponge soaking up everything around you because your brain was in a state of theta waves. A lot of those things that you picked up from your family, society, all of these things, they weren't good. And guess what? They still impact us today. Now, your limiting beliefs, they are like these really deep paths in your brain that are worn down by repetition. I'm not good enough becomes our default, right? I know you feel that. But neuroplasticity allows us to rewire that. So beliefs like I'm capable and I'm worthy, we can create those, we can change them. And yeah, they might feel a little bit unnatural at first, but guess what? Over time, they feel a lot easier. Your prefrontal cortex, what's really cool, it's like gardener. It's the ability to stop all of those beliefs that don't fall into alignment with you. The moment you notice these subconscious beliefs that are just going rampant in your mind is the minute you actually weaken their ability, you weaken their roots from actually growing, and you can create new empowering beliefs. Uprooting those beliefs is really damn hard. Can I get an amen? Amen. Neural pathways have been stored over time. They've been cooking for a long time. But because your brain is plastic, that means you get to change it. Ooh, I love that. I have chills. Each time you challenge a new belief, you are literally rewiring your brain. How cool is that? Pretty cool. All right, you have 60 to 70,000 thoughts per day. If you overthink like me, you have a hell of a lot more. 95% of them are the same as the day before. This repetition keeps us stuck in a lot of old patterns. Would you agree with me? Okay, if you don't change your reality, if you don't consciously change your thoughts, you're going to stay stuck in the same reality because your thoughts and emotions change your reality. When you visualize success, your brain has no idea if you're actually being successful or not. So guess what? Rewiring your brain. So what does that mean? Maybe we should start visualizing the things we actually want to become instead of rehearsing all of the things we don't want to be. Whoa, mic drop. Each time you repeat a belief, you're triggering that neuroplasticity. Anytime you challenge something, you are changing the connectivity between your neurons. Is this getting nerdy? You guys like this? We know that our limiting beliefs, they reside really deep in our subconscious shadow. But did you know that when you go into your shadows and you see what's lurking there, you might find some beliefs that are really cool that you actually might want to nurture. But guess what? You're not going to know unless you go there, right? Anyone ever done shadow work in here? Yeah, it's hard stuff, guys. It is hard stuff. So we know that if we keep digging into our shadow, we know that if we keep going into those negative beliefs, we are going to find ones that we want to nurture, and we're going to find ones that we kind of have to kick to the curb. Have you ever thought of something negative about yourself? You're like, I don't want that. I felt it before. To transform, we need radical acceptance. We need to be compassionate about the things and choices that we've made and the past versions of ourselves. And when we approach our limiting beliefs with kindness instead of judgment, we activate the brain's response system. And it's like, hey, this feels pretty good. I want to keep doing this. And you're going to keep inviting more and more back into your life. Now, letting go of old beliefs is not easy, but it is necessary. Ask yourself, is this truly mine? Or is this inherited? When we practice self-compassion, when we have that awareness, we get to replace those old beliefs with new beliefs and change who we really are. Now, planting new beliefs like I am worthy, I am capable, is like sowing seeds. To get them to root, you must really nurture them daily. Write them down, visualize them, take small steps in the way of your desired reality. It's scary, but it is possible for sure. Ooh, I love this one. During sleep, your subconscious is really, really active, right? So your active brain goes to sleep, your subconscious is still chilling. And when you play affirmations at night, what happens, it goes straight into that brain. That active brain is not giving you all of those reasons as to why you shouldn't be believing those things. Subliminal affirmations will change everything for you. Somatic release, let's talk about it. Think of your body as soil. Stored trauma. All of these things harden your soil, making it really hard for new things to grow. But somatic release techniques like yoga and dance and deep breathing, it loosens everything up for yourself. So we got to dance a little bit, right? We got to shake it out. We got to get that shit out of us. Just come on. And take small, consistent steps every single day. If there is something that you want to change, if you want to do something, find a small dose of that every single day and go after it. You're not going to run a 5K if you've been sitting on your butt for 3 years, but you can get off the couch, right? Right? It's just as simple as beginning, but it's scary. Change takes time. Gardens don't bloom overnight, but we have to trust the process and know that every small step is a direction in the version that we want for ourselves. Because you are the gardener. You get to cultivate what is in your garden. How cool is that? Most of us have a whole lot of weeds in our garden, but guess what? You get to design the garden. What are you going to plant? Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jess. All right, the next presenter is probably the best dressed person in the room. Chris Copley, outsider art, unusual, weird, important. I get it now.
After you saw that AI generated art, that's not what you're going to see here. So you're going to be like, what? That's art? That's all right. But before I even start, I just want to say Michael Jagger is here in the house, and that guy is the most creative person I've ever met. And he always starts things off with hello, hello. And his favorite artist is the sister, Karita Kent, who is an incredible artist. And she says, there's only make. And this is basically what I'm talking about here. Art is very subjective, so I guess we could start it off right about now. Outsider art, the term came up in 1972. It was art brut or raw art, a lot of different names for it. It's self-taught, untrained artists. There's books on it. There's even museums on outsider art, and it's really, really amazing. These are people who operate socially or culturally outside of the norms and kind of naive quality of the art. Some of it's childlike, very simple. I always liked North American Inuit art. They had very limited materials. This is an example from my collection with, this is just bone and feathers, but it's just like super minimal, but you really get it. It's ritualistic and very cool. So things like African art and also Latin American art, they're all about like kind of the celebrations. They're not here to sell these pieces. This is a Oaxacan mask, and they're just kind of simple, but they're fun, and they tell stories from their cultures, but it's just raw. It's very, simple materials, paper mache, but, definitely pretty cool. Other things like African art and things also have those same things. I'm a maximalist, but this is minimal. Like this is just a piece of stick. And I'm like, what is this? When you put it on a white wall, it's beautiful. So many people have such bad art in their houses. I'm sorry to say that. Eat, pray, love. Oh, please throw that in the garbage. I can't even handle it. Stop with the word art. This is from Peru. This is a shaman who brings people on ayahuasca journeys. I haven't done it, but these are penguin wings that were found from a dead penguin on a beach, but he makes these very raw, kind of unusual, ritualistic necklaces, and I think this piece is pretty powerful and kind of a little creepy, but, that's part of life. This is one of my favorite guys, Mose T. He's a famous outsider artist, and he was 87 years old. He was disabled, but he just painted prolifically. He couldn't stop painting. He has books. He's in museums, and in 1982 at the Corcoran Museum, they did this thing called Black Folk Art, and people panned this show and they said, is this art? This is garbage. It looks like, 2-year-olds did this art, but it's become very, very influential and important. And you'll see a few other artists that I really admire, but Mose T was just a very talented person with a true vision, a visionary artist. And that piece you saw before with the bird kind of dinosaur thing flying made out of wood. I'm really into Haitian art also, which is very, very simple and basic. And they have these loas or gods and spiritual themes, but very simple. They don't have a lot of money for their materials. This is Kiely-Vogelpohl, who's a voodoo priest. And the next one is the guy, Levoy Exil, who's 90% blind, but I've seen videos of him. He goes right up to the paintings and, with very, very fine technique, but his colors and his compositions are just incredible. But a true outsider artist with a vision, and even though he doesn't have a vision, his vision is to express what is in his mind, and I love that. This is a local artist named Axel Stolberg, and he has these forms of the houses, and he just constantly does these little maquettes, these small little pieces, and they're very inexpensive. If you see an Axel Stolberg show, just check it out. Buy a piece, small little piece. He does paintings, he does sculptures, but awesome. Now this, people are like, what the hell's that? It's like a found piece of art, right? This was at the Art Hop, was $30. And I love it. It's just raw, rough wood and pieces of metal. I don't even know this woman's name. She signed it on the back, but I can't decipher what it is. But I love this piece. It's just like some people like, I hate that. And I'm like, that's exactly it. It causes a reaction. This woman is institutionalized. She's severe alcoholic, schizophrenic. Her name is Carrie Price. But when she's lucid, she uses crayons and does One Lonely Cowboy and Elvis, and she writes these whole stories and stuff like that. I've seen videos of her, and I have a bunch of her work. She's a trip. This woman at the top, Tally Groves, she's a local artist also. She's a talented artist, but she paints in this naive style that's very childlike. And then this piece down here is from a successful artist in Provincetown, Mass, named Chet Jones, but he's autistic. I guess you can't say that, you get canceled. Neurodivergent, I think is the term now, but simple forms. And then Jean-Michel Basquiat, one of the most prolific painters, $100 million paintings now. We had an artist in Vermont, his name is Mikey Welch, he was in the rock band Weezer, unfortunately passed away, but he did paintings that referenced all kinds of art, but also Basquiat. These four faces are Mikey Welch's work. They're definitely kind of pained and aggressive, but he had a whole visual language that was so awesome. And I have some giant pieces of his, and they really, they change the energy in the room when you see a Mikey Welch piece. They're definitely super cool. Yeah, outside artist, untrained. This guy here, his name is Phil Frost, and he was a kind of a graffiti artist, and I hate the graffiti all over town. I don't support that, but I love some graffiti artists, what they do. He's in the Tate Modern now, but it was a rough piece of wood. This was painted on 9/11 as New York City was burning. He was looking across the river and painted that. This is another graffiti artist named Dave Buchanan, who's institutionalized also. But he has this own visual language of this kind of calligraphic graffiti type style. It's painted with dirt, oil, mud, and house paint. But, you know, his work just is very powerful to me when I see it. I just love it. It's just really unusual. Now, there's a movie out. It's called My Kid Could Paint That. This little girl was doing these Jackson Pollock splatter paintings, and she became actually famous. And people, of course, they want to tear her down. Oh, her father's an artist. He's helping out. I'm like, no. Kids' art is really amazing. I don't have kids. Kids scare the crap out of me, but I love their art. And this is my niece. She was 6 years old. I brought her to the Fleming Museum to see Emily Mason, who does these huge canvases, beautiful. And Emily Mason was also married to Wolf Kahn, a major artist. But her art, my niece looked at it. She's like, I could paint that. I said, when we get home, let's see it. She painted that for me, and it's one of my favorite pieces. And this is Connor Kelly in Denver. He took an art class. He's 7 years old, and he said he saw Starry Night from, and he's like, I'm going to do a version of Starry Night looking out over Denver. And he gave me that piece. And I'm like, so if you have kids, just support that. Like, support the arts. Don't throw their art away. Keep it. And also the last thing, if you have Eat, Pray, Love in your house, if I come over for dinner, please throw that in the garbage, or I will. Buy art.
No threat there. Right. Okay. All right. Our last one for the night. You guys have been a great audience. Thank you so much. We have Alan Nichols for everyone. So, Alan.
I wasn't going to say anything, but I'll just let you know that I took some liberties with this presentation.
Is there a plan for everyone? Is there a plan for me? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what it would be. Is there a place for everyone? Is there a place for me? I don't know. I don't know God for me. I don't know. I hope so. I hope and pray for
Thank you. That was beautiful. A round of applause for all 10 of our presenters, please. And another gratitudes for our sponsors. Again, the Media Factory, Mascoma, Solidarity of Unbridled Labor, and 7 Days. I lastly want to acknowledge this is a labor of love. This is a volunteer effort. We already recognized Michael with Solidarity, so thank you, Michael. We've got Joel, Drew, who's leaving us, Jude, who's taking photos, Karen, Robin, Heather, where are you? You're almost dressed as nice as Chris, if you can. Yeah. So Heather Winther has really been the key person that's been the constant for quite a while. So thank you, Heather, for making this happen. All right, so our next event is on June 26th. Please show up. We'll try to work on the microphone situation, but we'll be here again. If you want to volunteer, if you want to present, please, we're always looking for folks. We really appreciate your energy and your commitment. And thank you and have a safe evening.